Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturdayinathensga Podcast and what is officially the biggest rant session in the United States of America for the week of October 4th, 2025. I have lost so much sleep over this Georgia-Alabama game. I'm infuriated. That's the word I put on this outline right here, and we're going to jump right into it. Obviously, that was a heartbreaking loss. Georgia had the win in their hands and just wished it away. Quite simply. Alabama has some great players. Alabama schemed up a fairly good game, and Ty Simpson's a good football player. I said that going in, and I stand on that take, and as intolerable as his actions were post-game, as far as waving to our fans and going up to our cheerleaders and telling them that he's number one and all this stuff and shushing them, he's a good football player. So I have to give him credit. I have to give Alabama credit for the fact that they probably played their best game they'll play all year. I hope that both of these teams go undefeated. I hope that Georgia gets to see Alabama again in the SEC championship. But it's like we had the win and just gave it up is what it feels like to me. And maybe y'all could offer some opposing views. But we're going to go ahead and jump into specifically some of the moments I feel like that happened. And we're going to repeat a good bit of this later on with Hammy. So if you want to go and watch that interview instead where we mention a good bit of this, it is linked in the video. Good stuff in that interview for sure. But I'll give you a little more, I guess maybe more in depth from my side, maybe on those plays. 4th and 1. All right. 4th and 1. It is easy from a fan perspective and in hindsight to say we should have taken the points and kicked the field goal. It's one of those things where it's like, if we do get the first down or we get the touchdown, are we even having that discussion? Are we saying that? No, we're probably not. So it's kind of unfair to look at it in that way. At the same time, I know myself, before we went for the 4th, I was like, why are we going for this? Why don't we take the points, tie up the game? And when fans look on the scoreboard and see a tie game like in the 4th quarter, that place is going to go off and be electric. It was going to be electric if we got the touchdown for sure also. But it's just like, why aren't we taking the points? We're stopping them. Our defense has been stopping them. Our offense is driving down the field well enough to where we could stop them following our field goal and then take it back down the field and score at least a field goal later in the game and then probably hold them out to win the game in general. I know that's a lot to follow, but I just feel like it's a safer play, and we're not talking about a lot of what we're talking about right now if we just kick that field goal. Again, hindsight, but that's the first part of it. Second part of it, I love Cash Jones. I love his story. I think he's an incredible receiving back. I think he's got specific traits and strengths that we can utilize. 100% I believe that. That is no bullcrap at all with that. Why, when Chancey Bones is averaging 10 yards a carry or very close to it, which is the first time we've seen that since, who knows, for Georgia football, probably Nick Chubb or DeAndre Swift or Sony Michel. And frankly, Josh McCray is getting a guaranteed yard every time because he's like the second coming of Marshawn Lynch in this game. Even though Nate Frazier is fumbled the ball, he's fast and he's a guy who can get you at least a yard very quickly. If Dwight Phillips doesn't get caught, arguably the same deal. Why is Cash Jones getting the ball in that situation? That's my personal take on that. It should have been Chancey. If it wasn't Chancey, it should have been McCray. But I will say this. Again, we can debate those two things as far as who should be in the game or the decision itself to go for it. I know this, though. When you look at the play when it's schemed up in the game, if we hit that block from Juan Gasson, who's a fantastic football player and is going to continue to make great plays for Georgia, but he's not exempt from the criticism here. If he hits that block, it's a touchdown. So on 3 levels, it's crazy. Why do we make that decision? Why do we choose the personnel that we do? And why is our execution that poor, at least from that one player standpoint? I could sit here and rage all I want about that 4th and 1. That's really all I got at the moment on that. But then we go to 3rd and 9, and we throw a screen to Cash Jones. After we'd thrown a screen on 1st down, I'm not fairly sure what happened on 2nd down, but 3rd down, 3rd and 9, at midfield, we throw a screen to Cash Jones. It's like right at the line or behind the line of scrimmage. London Humphreys misses a block. Again, it's one of those things where it could be execution, but I don't know why, with the game on the line, why do you put the ball in the hands of your 5th string running back? Again, no shot at Cash Jones. My job is to break down the film or explain to y'all how I felt about the game. So that's what I'm going to do. It's no hard feelings. I have, a lot of respect for him, and it's not me calling him out in any way. But if we are going to put him in the game, let's use him to his strengths. I don't put in, or I don't expect us to put in Josh McCray and ask him to run a wheel route. It's the same sort of deal. You just don't do it. It's the exact same logic. It's nothing personal. But in that moment, we should be throwing a more complex pass or some other play, or at least get that ball in the hands of Chancey Bowens. Because even though, again, horrible block from London, even though I do feel that London has some opportunities that maybe Gunner missed him, or we just didn't scheme up enough for London. London missed the block, and it's tough to say what happens, but I do think Chancey probably has a better chance of breaking that tackle or making the guy miss. Chancey Bowens is averaging a lot of yards after contact in this game. Chancey Bowens, again, 12 carries, 119 yards, and a touchdown. Chancey Bowens is our starting running back right now. And I love Nate Frazier. And Nate Frazier knows that I love Nate Frazier. But Chancey Bowens is more consistent as far as his vision, even though Nate Frazier has greatly improved in that department. Frazier's vision has not been really something of concern for me this year, but what has still been concerning is the fumble issues. We talked about preseason. He needs to see the field better. He needs to hold on to the football. He's 1 for 2 on that right now. If we can get him to hold on to the football, then yes, Nate Frazier is probably our RB1, or can be our RB1. Chancey Bowens was too good overall for us to not just say, you are the running back 1 from here on out. I think that's probably what would happen. If it doesn't happen, he's going to get a lot more ups than he was getting, which is tough considering that over the last 2 games, Chancey Bowens was already getting more snaps than Nate. He got more snaps than him in the Tennessee game, which not a lot of people talk about, but he got more snaps than him also obviously last week, because I don't think Frazier played another down after he fumbled. Maybe that's a little extreme. Maybe it's not. I think that's up to the coaches to decide, but I don't know. There again, just self-inflicted things. The drop from Taylor Taylor, who is very similarly to what I just said about Juan Gaston. Taylor Taylor is a great player, and he will be a great player for Georgia. He'll make some great plays in due time. However, you just can't have a drop like that in a crucial situation. You can't have those missed blocks in crucial situations. Some of these penalties were very unfortunate. As far as Ellis jumping on the pile now, and I've only heard one other person say this, Zach Cannon, who's been mentioned now twice in this video, or will have been mentioned twice in this video by the end of it, mentioned to me the whistle hadn't blown. The whistle had not blown when Ellis jumped on that pile, so I don't blame him for that at all. It was probably targeting on that one Alabama offensive lineman, so I'm not going to make a big deal out of that, but that's my take on that, and I feel like that's one of the more unpopular takes right now, but it's the truth. It needs to be heard. What's also true, though, is Ty Simpson does not get that first down. No way. You can't convince me that he does, because he gets stopped short of the line, and there is no forward progress. There's no forward momentum. The refs are supposed to blow the play dead. They didn't blow the play dead, and he got the first down. So that's bullcrap to me in that. But also there were definitely some pass interferences, maybe where Georgia got a little bailed out as well. So I can't blame the refs in this game. It just seems there's always something that happens with Georgia, Alabama. I felt like there was a horse collar on Cash Jones that got missed late in the game that should have been offset. Obviously, I give Alabama credit for the fact that they played in the hardest stadium in the country. Even though we just lost a home winning streak, that's the toughest place to play in the country. If you were in that atmosphere on Saturday and you say that it wasn't, you're insane. If you try to convince me otherwise, you're insane. I'm not like one of those people that like, I'm right, you're wrong. But with that whole thing, I'm right, you're wrong. If you try to go against the fact that Sanford is the toughest place to play, because it is. It 100% is, and it will continue to be. It will cause so much pain, it will inflict so much pain on opposing teams for a long time to come. Forever and ever and ever. But it's just like, I don't know. But back to my point, Alabama didn't get but 1 or 2 false start penalties. A lot of credit to them on that. That's nothing that the refs did. That's nothing that we did. That's simply Alabama was disciplined when they faced a hellish crowd. So credit to them for that. However, have we ever gotten a holding penalty on Alabama in the history of Kirby Smart versus Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer? I can't recall a single time. That's probably a little bit of an exaggeration, but I can't seriously recall a single time that they've been called for holding, and it's bad, and we get held all the time against them. This all being said, though, this is just me, again, ranting, telling you how I truly feel. Georgia didn't lose this game because of the refs. I'm not trying to say that. Don't take that. I feel like there are some crazy things that happen with the refs every single time we play Alabama. There's always something. But I can't make that excuse. Georgia didn't play the game they should have played. Georgia got out coached, and it's not because and I give Kalen and Ryan Grubb credit because I think they called a good game. I don't think they called anything spectacular that Georgia shouldn't have seen coming or been ready for. I just chalk this down more to the fact that Georgia just didn't coach very well in this game from top to bottom, realistically. And I again, that's not a shot at anyone specific. I love Kirby Smart. Wouldn't trade him for the world. He's done incredible things for Georgia. That's just my take on this game. I had some words about Kalen DeBoer last week about his buyout, and just kind of I feel like this is a prove-it win for him. And I said that if I was wrong about him, and I said that Georgia's culture would beat Alabama's culture, in a lot of ways, in many ways, Georgia's culture is much stronger than Alabama's culture. However, Bama somehow has the blueprint to beating Georgia. And I think a lot of that, and I wanted to mention this, but I also don't want to because it's kind of controversial. A lot of what Kirby does at Georgia is what he took from Saban at Alabama. And while Alabama is no longer Saban's Bama by any stretch of the imagination, there's still some of those qualities ingrained there. And I think the blueprint is just at Alabama before beating Georgia. They know what Georgia is because they were once what Georgia is, and in a lot of characteristics, in a lot of ways. I think that helps them when they come into these matchups with Georgia. Anyway, though, I said that they don't have the culture that Georgia does. I still stand on that. But I kind of threw not shade at Kalen DeBoer, but just saying how big of a deal this is for him. And I did mention some of those buyout-ish topics, and I said I'd be the first person to take those words back if I was wrong, and I was wrong. Kalen DeBoer brings his A game for Alabama every time that they play Georgia, and I give him credit where credit is due. I'll say that much. I want to talk about our running back situation a little bit deeper. We already discussed a little bit about the fact that Bowens is the guy, but he just looked incredible out there. I've not seen a running back perform that well against a good team, that good of a team, since Georgia, Oklahoma. And obviously Oklahoma hadn't had a great defense that year, and Sony Michel is definitely a higher category than Chancey Bowens. Don't hear that when I say this. I just haven't seen a player perform to that level at the running back position for Georgia in a long time. That dude should be our RB1 going forward, regardless of what happens with these Nate fumbles, although I believe they'll do some sort of thing to get it figured out. Whatever that may be, changing how he holds the football, how he protects it, what plays we give him, I don't know, but it's a clear issue, and Chancey Bowens is a safer bet right now to pick up yards and hold on to the football. Where is our pass rush? This is what I want to transition into. Where is the pass rush? Did we leave it on the bus before that game? Did we leave it on the bus in Tennessee? Did we leave it on the bus or leave it on the field in LA after the second national championship? I think it goes both ways. I think since Will Muschamp left Georgia, or at least left that defensive coordinator role, I feel like the pass rush and blitzes have overall gotten a lot worse. There's not as much creativity. There's not as much of this blitzing on first and second down and really putting other teams in bad situations that you saw. Yes, we had a lot of talent those years. It's not a shot at Glenn Schoen because I think he's a fantastic coach. He knows football very well. He's a great recruiter, great linebacker coach. He's got a squad year in, year out. But there's been a very clear decline as far as blitzing. Blitzing's been my biggest deal. And I think I'm not expecting the four guys on the line to get home every single time, but I'm expecting them to create some sort of pressure. And sometimes you have to throw in a fifth guy or throw in stunts with those guys up front. And we just haven't seen that consistent creativity from Glenn Schumann that we saw from Dan Lanning, or even when we had Will Muschamp in that group. But Dan Lanning was definitely, as I mentioned with Hammy in our upcoming interview, otherworldly as far as the blitzes he would call it, the blitzes he would dial. He was just fantastic with anticipation and intuition on knowing when to send some blitzes and what to expect. And I mentioned this a little bit with that interview as well. Georgia players are not scared of Alabama. Georgia doesn't bring in 4 stars and 5 stars and coach them up week in, week out, day after day, hour after hour, for them to be scared for some guys who are just as good or maybe not even as good as them talent-wise. Quite simply, they're not afraid of Alabama. They're not afraid. Why would they step on the field if they're afraid of Alabama? Why would they keep getting anywhere remotely closer if they're afraid of Alabama? That being said, there's a clear mental aspect to this. And I don't know if it's they get too amped up for this game and lose focus on their assignments. I don't know if it's they get so worried about messing up because of the history of this game. I don't know what it is, but we got to figure it out, and we got to figure it out quick. And I feel like it's going to probably happen through the form of a rematch. I really hope that Georgia wins out and runs the table. I hope Alabama does the same, not because I like Alabama, but because I want to see them again in the SEC championship. Because somewhere or another, we've got to break the streak. We thought we did it in 2021, 2022 with the national championship. Quite clearly, we didn't. It's a mental thing. We've got to face them again. And I like the matchup odds, also the rematch odds, because we know what they're going to throw at us offensively. We know it to be ready for offensively. They've either got to do a better job at what they already did well, they got to find ways to do it better, or they just got to completely come up with a new scheme. Whereas Georgia has the dudes to run the football on you. I think the offensive line wasn't a concern this past weekend, but it's definitely regressed under Searles. And I haven't really said that out loud yet until that interview, but I'm saying it now. That being said, though, the line played good enough. The line did a good job in the run game for the most part, outside of obviously the crucial moment and then some other moments in the run game. They did a good job opening up lanes, and Chancey Bones is just a dude. I trust that dude to run all over Alabama again if it happened again. I think Georgia's best game beats Alabama's best game. You probably got an A- game from Alabama and a C+ game from Georgia, realistically. That's the way I look at that. I'm not making excuses. Georgia beat Alabama. Georgia lost to Alabama. That's reality. I'm not in the first stage of grief still. I've moved on past denial. It's happened. We got to move on, though. We got to move on. So here's our game, Georgia versus Kentucky. It's going to be a noon game, noon kickoff in Sanford. I have an unfortunate fear that some of our students might not show up and take this seriously, which really angers me because we have had 2 national championships since 2021. We just won the SEC last year. We went 13-1 the year before, and fans won't show up for noon games or 3:30 games against bad teams. Kirby can't really do much as far as scheduling better teams when other teams aren't available or they back out of games. We can't blame him for that, really. As fans, we've got to show up and just do what we can. Now, as far as that Alabama game goes, we have every right to be upset because we screamed our hearts out. We made that place hell, as we like to say. We were hell for Alabama in that stadium, and our players just didn't do it. But let's show up as fans. Why are we even talking about this or discussing this if we're not going to show up and make an impact on the game? When you yell and bark and there's 93,000 of you in a stadium, it's going to be loud and it's going to be tough for the other team. We have got to figure this out to where we stop coming out flat as a fan base for early games or lesser games. Like, I'm not saying that I expect it to be at 136 decibels every single time we play, no matter the opponent, but we hit 136 plus against Alabama. We shouldn't be falling under 100 against Kentucky. It's still an SEC game, and it's still the Georgia Bulldogs are playing a football game. You get 6 or 7 of these, a year. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Please go out there and make Sanford an intimidating place as we did on Saturday. But anyway, we got Kentucky this weekend. We have 15 straight wins against Kentucky. We've really had their number for quite some time now. It's going to be played in Athens at noon, as I've just mentioned and ranted about. I don't think Kentucky's a very good team. They had a close loss to Ole Miss, and I do respect Ole Miss, but I think that to play at Kentucky is a tougher task than most people realize. But also, I don't think Ole Miss is that great or was that great at the time. I know they just beat LSU, but I also don't think LSU is that great, just based off of what I have seen. And I know sometimes it's tough to not look into statistics a good bit, but it's true. It's true. But they got blown out at South Carolina. And I quite simply don't think South Carolina is very good. I think Lenore Sellers is a good football player. I don't think South Carolina is very good. So I'm not really too worried about Kentucky. This game will say more about us than it says about Kentucky for sure. It's going to be 70 degrees and cloudy for this game, so pretty good football weather, I will say. We won't have to wait as long in line as we did for that student gate last time, or wait as miserably, if you will. We're favored by 20.5, which is a lot for a team that came off of a loss like we just had, and I guess Kentucky came off of a much worse loss, and they're a much worse team. But 20.5 is still major spread for sure for an SEC game. Georgia is favored in the ESPN FPI 90.3% to 9.7% if my math is done correctly as of last check. Our analysis from Rush, Hammy, and Georgia Dogs coverage, we gave Georgia every position this week. We feel that we do have more of an advantage in that department than they do. As far as we have the guys and they don't, quite simply. We have talent. I don't think Kentucky has much of it. Keys to winning, we've got to start fast. We've got to break this trend, and it's really been a Mike Bobo trend. Though I think he called a pretty solid game, it is a Mike Bobo trend of we don't start games quick. We got to figure it out. Um, Again, crowd's got to take this game serious. Georgia's got to take this game serious. Everyone surrounding this atmosphere and this game on Saturday has to take it seriously and treat it as a game. Even though it's a lot more boring of a game, there's not as much storylines around it. Georgia plays football on Saturday. Let's show up as fans. Let's show up as a team. Just get the Bama game out of your system. That's gone. That's over with. It hurts. It still stings. It's gonna hurt for a long time until you get them back. It's still gonna hurt after that. But you got to move on. You got to move on and realize there's a lot of football to be played. All gas, no breaks. And I say that a lot, but it's where we're at with this Georgia team. So many things that shouldn't be happening with the levels of talent we have and some of the coaches we have. The slow starts. It's just what it all comes down to. Slow starts, pass rush, and offensive line needs to build off of what was objectively a big improvement and a pretty good game against Alabama. Got to figure out the scheming early, though, on defense. We can't be getting exposed and letting that quarterback sit back there and just pick us apart no matter who the quarterback is. I'm going to send y'all to that interview with Hammy, and we'll be back with some score predictions, among other things. All right, everyone, we're back again with Hammy, unfortunately, to break down Georgia's loss against Alabama. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. Hammy, what are your overall impressions of Georgia's performance against Alabama?
Dude, it just sucks, doesn't it? I hurt. I am sulking. It sucks. There's no other way to put it. There's a lot of things that went wrong for us. We were talking about it before. A lot of things that went wrong for us. But I think there are some positives that you can take away from. I think shutting down Alabama's offense in the second half was pretty impressive. The way they were moving the ball, those first two drives were just scientific. 14 plays, 14 plays. That's what Alabama did to us in 14 points. It hurts, man, because they schematically just outcoached us. Is at the end of the day, I think that's what it boils down to. Obviously some matchups, things worked in Alabama's favor, but overall, I think we got out coached, we got out executed. It doesn't fall on one person's back solely, but it just hurts, man. My heart is throbbing. When are we going to beat these guys? When? I don't know. But I will say this: I hope we run into them again. I hope we see him in Atlanta in the SEC championship, or I hope we see him in the playoff or even the national championship. Because I'm ready to beat these mofos and I'm ready to take them down. And I'm tired of hearing about this narrative. We know it's real. We know it haunts us. We know it haunts Kirby. We know it haunts that whole locker room. But I still look forward. Let's kill this narrative. Screw them.
I don't even know. It's such a mental thing now. Like, there's no denying at this point that it is a mental thing. But I don't want to call it. I don't think the players are scared of Alabama. I just think something is definitely different heading into these matchups as opposed to when the other team is not wearing crimson. It's really weird. I'm not, again, these are players, these are 4 and 5 star players that are starting for University of Georgia. They play teams just as good or better talent-wise than Alabama on a pretty consistent basis. That's not a shot at Alabama because, I mean, I think they got a very talented team. I said it last week. I think it got reaffirmed in that game. I think Ty Simpson, as much as I can't stand some of his behavior, I think he's a great player. He's definitely made differences for Alabama's offense. But it's just weird. I don't know mentally what it is. I don't think it's a level of being scared. I just think it's something mentally changes when we play Alabama, and we got to break that. And it's what's even weirder about it is we had dealt with that for so long and finally broke it in 2022 or so we thought, and then it just kind of came back. It's like we need some momentum in this rivalry. I
Yep.
do think as a matchup, a rematch bodes well for Georgia. I honestly can't look at the camera and say if that happens, Georgia wins. That's way too far out anyway. But if
Yeah.
that were to happen, it's still like I don't feel like super confident that we'll win, but I do think it's a better likelihood of that happening in a rematch than the first time around. At least that's kind of where we're at with Alabama, and that's happened before. But yes, I think the best case scenario, and as of right now, I expect this to happen. I expect both teams to win out and meet in the SEC championship. I think that's best case scenario. We got to get over it at some point. We got to take the bull by the horns, so to speak. We got to look at this face on, and just head on, and just it's like I don't know. I can't. I'm just at a loss for words even talking about this at this point. I don't know what to say. It's just I'm so mad. I get to a level of angriness that I don't think I can reach, and then it gets worse and worse. It's just like I can't stop thinking about the game. But we'll eventually have to move on and finally look at Kentucky, who Kirby says is a good team. He is the head coach. I don't see the good team in Kentucky. Maybe I'm wrong. If they prove me wrong, I'll own it. But I think this is another game where for Kentucky, it definitely comes down more to what Georgia does than Kentucky. But we'll get into that in a minute. I got a couple more questions to ask you about Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah.
We're gonna just straight up address it. The 4th and 1. A lot of criticisms here. Juan Gaston misses a block. A lot of people criticizing Kirby for not taking the points. It is a 4th and 1. Cash Jones being in the game. But I really just wanted to ask you, was it a good call and wrong execution? Was it the wrong personnel? Was it a bad call to even go for it in the first place? Should we have taken the 3 points? What are your thoughts on that 4th and 1? Just everything that went down.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a multiple choice test. There's multiple options for this, for that specific play. Kirby said in the post game press conference, 10 times out of 10, I'm running, I'm going for it. And as our head coach, as our valiant leader, he knows it. He knows his team. He knows his guys better than any of us. He's paid to do that. And so I'm riding with him. I'm supporting the going for it. I don't think there's an argument there. Yeah, looking back, yeah, we would tie the game up and we eventually hold them to 0 points, but they play that whole last drive differently. Who's to say they don't drive down and score? They did it at will on those first two drives. I'm so against saying kick the field goal. I think that's the stupidest excuse ever. The game completely changes, and it was meant to be that we lost it. So as the reality goes, whatever. But in retrospect, I think you go for it. I think the personnel is the biggest miscue right there. But I think first off, you got to look at the fact like why up tempo. Let's pump the brakes. And Gunner might have gotten that first down on the run prior to. Uh,
It's definitely a debate. I saw one angle of it yesterday where I'm like, I can't. It's too close for me to go out and post it, but it's like it's definitely worth a review in that time. But if we're going up tempo, I still blame the officiating crew should look at that, but that's kind of our fault for going up tempo and kind of taking away a chance for that to happen. I'll throw that out there.
Yeah. And I think, that whether that happens or not, whether it's confirmed that he's short of the first down line to gain, you still go for it. But why Cash Jones? I love Cash. He's done a lot for us. I mean, he, pretty much single-handedly kept us in the Tech game and the Notre Dame game. He scored the only touchdown. Like there's no flack for Cash. But if you look at it, I saw this stat the other day. Against top 25 opponents, Cash Jones has 17 carries. He has, 15 carries, and he has 17 yards on those 15 carries against top 25 opponents. So that means he's averaging 1.1 yards per carry. One of those runs was a 15-yard gain against Clemson in the first game of the year last year. So if you take away that run, he's averaging like 0.025 yards per game, per carry. Why is he in? Chauncey Bowens is a dog. He was doing it all game. He owned them. We owned the whole rushing game. And to be quite honest, yeah, that one play, we're going to look at it and we're going to analyze it. And Gaston missed that block and Cash got tackled in the backfield. We owned the line of scrimmage. Our running game we established. And if you told me, I don't know if anybody listens to Josh Pate, but he has padlock stats. If you told me that we outgained Alabama in the rushing category the way that we did, how we controlled that rushing game, I would have said we would have won by 2 touchdowns, which theoretically we kind of left like 14 points on the board. And I mean, Chauncey Bowens was going off, and that's what fires me up. I'm just like the juices are.
We share that same exact feeling right now. We totally do, and I feel like probably a million people, a million Georgia fans right now share that same exact feeling. And it's totally tough to acknowledge that in hindsight, you're going to probably look at things a little differently. If Gaston hits that block, if Cash breaks the tackle, no one's coming out right now and saying we should have kicked the field goal. So when I make that point, it's totally in a hindsight way.
Yeah.
If we look at the way the game was going, even before they hiked it, part of me was like, why are we not kicking this? Because now Kirby has a tendency of taking some field goals when he probably could go for it, and then I guess now vice versa. I don't know. I love the aggression. I just don't like the execution was bad. There's so many things. It's so tough when there's on pretty much three different levels, there's issues such as do we kick the field goal? Is that the right play call if we're going for it? Why is Cash Jones in the game? And like you said, I love Cash Jones. Cash Jones has been an elite receiving threat for Georgia. He's an elite third down back. He doesn't get enough attention for those things. Why is he in the game on 3rd and 3 the play before also though? I don't really understand that. I know it's a third down, but I feel like if we're not going to throw the football, and I know you can't just throw him in there only when you're throwing the ball because then that kind of gives it away that you're throwing the football. But it's like Chancey Bowens had 12 carries for 119 yards. When was the last time a Georgia running back averaged 10 yards a carry? It's been a long time, at least I believe, or it's been a minute since we've had someone who's done that against at least a top 25 team. Nonetheless, it's Alabama we're
Yeah.
talking about. He got 10 yards of carry on. Josh McCray, I posted something during the game that compared him to like Marshawn Lynch. Just like I'm fired up watching that dude just bully this Alabama player into the end zone. Like you cannot tackle him. If you need 1 yard, I'm not exactly saying let's try to stuff it up the middle because that had struggled a couple plays before. That had been an issue a couple plays before. But again, love Cash Jones, but if we're going to use him, let's use him to his strengths. Now, if we look at the play call itself, it's a beautiful play call. I think there's a lot of criticisms that you could throw at the entire thing. I say kick the field goal before and especially after, but again, that's hindsight. That's unfair to really look at it like that. But if Gaston hits the block, and he's a fantastic player, Gaston's a fantastic player, so that's not a shot at him. He had a bad miss. He totally did. So he deserves some criticism for that, but he's a fantastic player. But it comes down to the fact that he missed a block, and if he doesn't miss that block, Georgia 100% picks up with first down, but maybe a touchdown, and it's pretty likely. It's pretty likely if you watch the play back, the angle's there.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could feel a sort of a sense of the crowd almost deflated in that moment. The crowd almost deflated. And back to your whole padlock stat thing, uh, Jake Fromm after the game even said, if you're giving me 220 rushing yards or whatever it was, and they don't score in the second half, I'll take it. So
Yeah.
it's just it's crazy to think about. If you had told me before this game that Georgia was going to run for 220 yards and Alabama was not going to score in the second half, I probably would have said it's a blowout. I mean, just, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I really would. I don't know how it's not. I don't know how we're sitting here with those two stats and Georgia lost by 3 points. It's just crazy. Um, but one of the other things I wanted to mention, yeah, that running back room, that rushing attack for Georgia, we've seen it in some weeks before, but especially like this week, like it was different, and that's something to be excited for the rest of the year. I love Nate Frazier, but until he can consistently hold onto the football, I think Chancey Bowens is the guy. And I say that because Chancey Bowens breaks contact more consistently than Nate Frazier does. Nate Frazier is faster, but it's not like a wide gap. Like I'm watching that dude, Chancey Bowens on Saturday. Like he can run. He is fast. He's a very fast player. Um, McCray has got to be your goal line guy. You need 1 yard. You go to him or Bowens. But I do trust that Nate will be able to eventually figure out this issue. But there's definitely some work to be done there. I do think he's gotten better. One of his other criticisms we had for him heading into the year, or at least I did, was I feel like his vision wasn't that great, and I feel like that's even gotten better. He broke off a pretty solid run at the beginning of the game, but he just needs to consistently hold onto the football. That's 2 fumbles in the last 3 games. And then the other point I wanted to mention about that, you're right. We left points on the board. Like if Gaston hits that block, that goes from 21 to 28. If Taylor, who another great young player who just made a crucial mistake, he deserves the criticism for it, but it's the truth. He's a great player and he will be. If he catches that pass, we're talking 35-24. You can say the same kind of excuses for Alabama. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm just saying if Georgia executes, it could be a very different game. But speaking of all those things, I want to transition into another controversial call in a lot of ways. The 3rd and 9 to end the game, and after that we punted it back to Alabama. So it's kind of a two-part question. I'll ask you the first part of it. 3rd and 9. What do we think about the play call? What do we think about maybe I don't know, maybe you have some views on some of the plays that led up to the 3rd and 9? Like, what's your whole takeaway from that 3rd and 9? Just what occurred on that down?
I mean, honestly, man, I haven't gone back and watched the game yet, and I haven't gone back. I just can't bring myself to do it.
It's tough. It's
And
tough to watch.
I've watched the 4th and 1 countless times just because it's all over. I haven't watched the 3rd and 9 much, but Man, the thing with the play calling and stuff is, yeah, like, and you can go back to both plays, 4th and 1 and the 3rd and 9. Like, is it the right call? Is it the right personnel? Is it the right execution? What does the offensive line do? What is the blah blah blah? At the end of the day, Bobo's our guy, and I'm gonna stick with him. I thought he did call a pretty good game, but minus those two plays. We established the run. Me and you sat here, literally uh last week, this time last week, and said if we establish the run, and now we're talking about these padlock stats, if we get 220 rushing yards and outgain Alabama, we got it. We got the win in the bag. I just think there's a lack of execution that is, it just pains me. I don't know. I really don't know. Like you said, I mean,
I
we're
feel like it's a bunch of things at this point. I feel like
yeah,
there's several plays you can look at and point to execution, but into the 4th and 1, kind of back to that. Like you can point at execution and you can look at coaching as far as the personnel. You can criticize the going for it versus the field goal again, a little trickier, but still there's several factors that play into this, which I think is kind of what's driven me crazy. Is I want to know what went wrong, and I watch it back over and over again, and I know there's several things that went wrong, but I want to find, like, just naturally, I want to find someone or something to blame, and I just don't know exactly what takes the full blame at this point. But I mean, it is a team sport, so
yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, I think so. I'm gonna go back to the 4th and 1 real quick. So the 4th and 1, obviously, we focused on Gaston and him missing that block, and then Cash, tackled in the backfield. But if he makes that block, he's in the end zone, and that's 6 points right there. And then go to the play before, like Gunner's run. I like, it's your minuscule amounts. This is kind of like a just a flashback, maybe weird moment, but when I played like literally middle school football, I was in like 6th grade, and I played with Max Johnson and Jake Johnson. Both are now playing college
mhm.
football for UNC. They played at A&M and LSU. Like, they're stud athletes. Their father's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And we were in the 6th grade middle school championship, and he sat there and he pulled out his Super Bowl ring that he won with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he said, "Guys, I've won championships by this much, and I've lost championships by this much." And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
That stuck with you.
Yeah, no, that and it has. And that is what this game was. It 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 comes out that way because the score was so close. Taylor drops that ball. I mean, that is an inch away from, 6 points right there. Cash Jones is a shoelace away from 6 points. Gunner is a shoelace away from getting the first down, and we don't even talk about this 4th and 1. All of these things. This game boiled down to a game of inches, and Bama got the inch, and it sucks. And so, like, we can break down it all, and I'm not as qualified as maybe you or even others to break down play calling and all that good stuff. I'm talking in a general scope, 50,000 feet above. We got beat by that inch, and that's what cost us the game. So,
It's unfortunate. It's tough to look at some
yeah,
of those what ifs, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like at the end of the day, a lot of things factor in, but Georgia just didn't play a good enough football game to win. And it's going to take, as we've discussed, a minute to get over that.
yeah,
Um, but I feel like if I want anybody in this sort of situation we're in, it's Kirby Smart because he knows how to fire these guys up and use it as fuel. I'm definitely still concerned about a lot of things from an X's and O's standpoint, but we'll get into that.
yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to follow up on the whole 3rd and 9 discussion with,
Mhm.
we punted the next down. It was 4th and 13. This is not something I've really seen discussed a lot. It kind of bothered me though. I believe it was 4th and 12 or 4th and 13. Following that 3rd and 9,
Mhm.
we were somewhere from our own 40 to midfield. And I feel like even though it's 4th and 13, in that moment, there's 3 minutes left in the game. I feel like you got to go for that because what's the reward? The reward is you get the first down, game keeps going. Whereas if you punt it, you have no chance of getting the first down. They get the ball no matter what. But if we had turned it over, had we gone for it, like the worst case scenario realistically is unless they break off a big run, probably a field goal. Is as far as points go. That's the worst case scenario. The ultimate worst case scenario is they run out the game. But that happens either way. So I feel like that's probably a little more personal to me, again, because I just haven't heard many people speak on that, but it still bothers me. Do you think we should have gone for it at that point in the game, or did we make a good decision obviously in hindsight, it wasn't a good decision. But just looking at in that moment, was it a good decision to punt the ball instead of try and go for it on a fourth and long?
I mean, it's such a long distance to go for it. And I mean, after we didn't get the 4th and 1, we're playing scared at that point. And me and you, once again, going back to what we talked about last week, like, or I guess it was in the bye week when we were recapping the Tennessee game, like Bobo and Kirby got conservative and we started running the ball and we started kicking field goals and everybody's like, well, what the hell, guys? Like, we got to keep the foot on the neck. And like, and me and you said the same thing. We're part of that.
I think
Uh,
we should have been a little more specific.
yeah. And now we're like, God, we should have kicked the field goal or we should have gone for it and like been more aggressive and all that. I don't know. So it's like, we're just fans at the end of the day, but it's so funny. No, going back to that play, I guess because of how our defense was playing in that second half, you kind of have to trust them. I'm kind of with you on if you get it, then Bama plays that down, or if you don't get it and they have great field position rather than starting them inside their own 10-yard line or 15-yard line, whatever Brett Thorson pinned them to. Um, but if they play that completely different, they run the ball, they run the ball, they run the ball, and then they get inside their 35-yard line and they just kick a field goal. And yeah, it might be with a minute left, but it doesn't run out the game. Whereas when they have the length of the field to go, they're technically still probably trying to get to that field goal range so they can take a 6-point lead. But like we saw on the play that won them the game that ended it, they
Which,
didn't.
by the way, I have to give DeBoer credit on that. That was
It's good.
genuinely just a well drawn up play.
Yeah.
It still hurts, but it was a well drawn up play.
Yeah. I mean, Grubb, their offensive coordinator, just schemed us up.
Hmm.
He picked us apart and it was brutal. It hurt. No, but like I mean, I think that drive goes completely different. And so in that sense, yeah, you want to go for it because they have 20 yards to go, whereas when they had to drive the length of the field to end the game, you just give them more real estate almost, which sounds weird, but like it's almost kind of a positive to get them where they just are targeting a 20-yard gain, basically. I don't know. That's just like an analytical way, and maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. I I don't know. I like I mean, we go back to the or we you already said it. We're not paid. We're trying to get paid to talk about talk about Georgia football, and I'm just at a loss of words. Like it's so painful that I have no idea what to think, and it's back to the game of inches thing.
Brooks Austin, who is the best analyst for Georgia football outside of actual on the team analysts,
Yeah,
even he's like, it's tough to break it down because you don't know what they're saying in those meeting rooms. You don't know. It's tough. We can speculate all we want, but at the end of the day, the only person who has all the answers regarding football is Kirby Smart, or
yeah,
at least regarding Georgia football is Kirby Smart. So it's definitely tough for us to break it down and say exactly what happened. I can tell you this, I definitely think Kirby looks at it more as an execution thing than a coaching thing.
yeah,
Which in a lot of ways he's right. In some ways I disagree with him, but that's not my decision to make. That's not my call to make. He's won 2 national championships. So, and he's also helped us get over this Alabama curse once. And if he's done it once, we can do it again.
yeah,
It's like, when are we going to finally put it to sleep for good? Because we thought we did for a minute and it just kind of came back. Um, I did want to shift gears a little bit. Gunnar Stockton is, in my opinion, I think in most of the fan base's opinion, far from the person to blame for Saturday. The stat line, it's not going to wow you, but it doesn't really matter because stats aren't everything. He played a clean game. He almost threw an interception, but he still they got dropped or got tipped. He's still interceptionless on the year. Overall, what do we learn? Not even what do we learn about Gunnar, but just how did he perform? What maybe did we learn about him? I guess I don't really know what to say.
um, I was impressed with Gunner's game. Like you said, the stats aren't that impressive. 130 pass yards, I think, 22 rushing yards. But he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He did his job, and his job was to be a game manager. And going back to the run game, getting it established, we did. And so why would we get away from it? I do think there's some opportunities left on the edge. But I mean, the pass to Colby Young was beautiful. Granted, Colby Young was wide open, but that was exactly what we needed. And it got us right back in the game down, 14-0 at that point. So it's like he threw it on the money to Taylor. Like we everything we asked him to do, he did, and he did it correctly. So I think what we learned about Gunner is he's QB1, and obviously there's no debate. We knew that after Tennessee, but he's a gamer, dude. I mean, he for when we were down 14-0 and then 17-7 at half, he kept us in that ball game. And our running game is largely it's largely due to our running game as well. But man, Gunner's the guy, and I'm all for it, and I'm ready for us to let him open it up because I think he's got that ability. Yeah, it's a little sketchy when he throws it over the middle and it gets tipped and whatever. But man, interceptions happen, and he's not going to be interceptionless all year. It's almost physically impossible. No college quarterback has ever done it playing more than 20 snaps. Like it's impossible. So there's going to be an interception. But I think the beautiful thing about Gunner is he's got that short-term memory loss that quarterbacks talk about and quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators. You have to. And something bad happens, you get back out there and you respond. And we saw that in the Tennessee game. That strip sack at the end of the game. Thought the game was over. Gunner comes back and delivers a strike to London, and we take him to overtime. We win the game. Like Gunner's the dude, and I think we have to let him open it up a little bit more because he's got that mentality. He's got the mentality of F you. If something bad happens to me, I'll come back out there and strike it right back down your throat. So I'm all for it. I'm all for Gunner. Obviously, he's not to blame at all. I think he played an exceptional game. So I'm excited to see what the rest of the season looks like for him. And this goes to back to a general perspective, 50,000 feet above. This loss could be the thing that just pushes us forward. We saw
It
it's
could, yeah.
probably
We
the
could
loss.
see some things about this team through the loss that, we our pass rush could wake up, which is what I'm about to ask you about. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it could bring a lot of positives.
No, yeah. And I mean, we saw it with Alabama. Like Alabama lost to Florida State in the beginning of the first game of the season. And they have since responded, obviously against inferior competition before this game against UL Monroe and Wisconsin, probably the worst Big Ten team in their conference. But then they come in and they answer the bell when their name's called against Georgia, and they come into Sanford Stadium, they break the win streak and all that good stuff. That could be us. And I think what we saw against Tennessee is we all came together, they unified, and they said, we're hopping on our quarterback's back, we're hopping on our coach's back, we're going to take their personalities and we're going to all exhibit it, and it's going to be cool, calm, collected, and we're going to go win football games. And I think we saw that in Alabama. That second half, the defense took the personality of Kirby Smart and said, let's stay calm, let's stay cool, let's stay collected, and let's shut these mofos down. And they did. And obviously, it didn't go our way, but I think we saw a lot of unified group effort, which we didn't really see last year. I think the team, yeah, I think anybody would say that as a Georgia fan. There's something about this team that's come together, and I'm excited for it because this loss might just propel us to all right, we've got very little wiggle room. We can't screw up anymore. If we want to make it to Atlanta, if we want to, win the SEC championship and then have a top four spot in the college football playoff seeding, if we want to make it to the college football playoff, we don't have much more wiggle room. And we've got a tough freaking schedule left. And Ole Miss looks good and all that stuff. But now we've seen it, and we've seen some of the best competition in the country come to our place and beat us. Let's rally together and let's take these mofos down and let's be them dogs that we all know we can be.
Definitely getting some good experience early on, especially for these young guys
Mhm.
that got thrown in the fire kind of early. This is kind of a side note, not something I'm prepared to talk about. But again, like you said, Ole Miss was four. There's a good chance that could be a night game. How about that atmosphere in Sanford Stadium? Say whatever you want about the game itself, but that was special. I thought the wristbands were great. It was loud. There's no way that could have been easy for Alabama. I don't know how they possibly only had like one or two false starts the whole game. That's impressive on their behalf. I'll give them that. That place was rocking though. I've never seen that stadium like that before.
No, I haven't either. It was awesome. It was electric. Everything went right for Georgia except the outcome of the game. That stadium experience, that fan experience was one of the most electric things I've been a part of. And I loved the wristbands, and everybody can say the jinx and the curse and all that stuff. whoever called for blackout, I don't want to blackout again. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But the wristbands are awesome. Like, don't take that away. That created something special in Sanford
Oh yeah.
Stadium. And another thing is the whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm having nightmares about it. Um, was it overplayed? Yes, but in the right situation, I do think it worked. In some instances, now they converted every third down they wanted
Oh my
to, but
gosh,
still,
dude. I
um,
didn't even throw that on here. That drove me crazy. They were 7 for 7 at least
yeah,
before we stopped them on third down. It was horrific.
yeah. So I mean, they can reduce how many times they use the brr, brr. But let's keep that stadium atmosphere going like that. It's going to be a hard wake up call to get the fans motivated for this noon Kentucky game, but we're going to need everybody because we can't be sleepwalking into this. Kentucky's given us trouble year in and year out, and granted, it's been in Lexington most times, but who's to say they don't come in here and do the same this year? So we've got to keep that place electric, and man, I'm excited because that stadium atmosphere it elevated us to be like, okay, Sanford Stadium is genuinely a hard place, and obviously we hadn't seen the wristbands and stuff. We saw the fireworks toward the end of last year, but we haven't had a night game like that in probably forever. I mean, since Notre Dame
Since
2019.
that, since
Yeah,
one person I was speaking to said that's the loudest they'd heard the stadium since the Auburn blackout in 2007. Like it won't get talked about as much because of the outcome, but as far as objectively what that atmosphere was, that was probably the best or one of the best. Um, that song you keep referencing, it was overplayed, totally overplayed, and they did it every second down. They did,
yeah,
and I can't stop getting videos of people complaining about how they have nightmares about it. I thought it was awesome.
yeah,
I'm one of those people who I can listen to a song get played over and over and over again, and as long as it's like a cool or it hypes you up or it's a good sound, for some reason that doesn't bother me. So I love that. I don't know
yeah,
if they'll do it as much in the next game, but they need to do it because definitely it's a very intimidating sound. Um,
yeah. No, I've
and then
got so
as far as the blackout though,
yeah.
I saw it that Wednesday the week before, like during our bye week. I
Mhm.
sent a text. I was like, no, no, no. We do not need a blackout against Alabama. And I know it wasn't really a blackout, but some people listened to it. A lot of people didn't. But I think we need to stay away from color themes at least against
This is
Alabama for a while.
Yeah, this is my take on it. And I saw some accounts, and I'm not gonna say names and stuff, that are like, if you don't believe in the blackout, then you're just a sore loser and you believe in curses, and that's just excuses, excuses, excuses. Listen, here's my take. On the flip side, why do we need gimmicks to win? Like,
There you
let's
go.
just wear the silver breeches, let's wear our red jerseys, our red helmets, and let's go fuck some people up, okay? I'm gonna say it. Like I'm just gonna say it. Like I'm tired of the gimmick stuff. Like no more of that hoopla. Like let's just go out there and execute how we know we can. And that's what Georgia football is. At the end of the day, we are founded on traditions. We are one of those schools that sticks to our traditions. We've got the oldest chartered university in our backyard. We are built on tradition. Let's stick to the traditions. They've worked for a very long time. They've won us 2 national titles in 2 years. They won us 2 national titles before that. We've got some of the most historic players in the country. Screw the gimmicks. Let's wear red. Let's be hell, like we said last week. Let's be Georgia, you know?
Yeah, that's great. That will get clipped. I don't know. I love the black jerseys. No one's saying we don't like the black
Yeah,
jerseys, but jerseys don't. And I mean, I guess in the same way, a color theme doesn't impact the game of football. But if it's a curse, it's a curse, and I'll listen to that.
yeah,
I'm a superstitious human,
same.
even if it has no effect, and it doesn't. It has no effect. I acknowledge that it has no effect. But I feel guilty if I would have worn a black jersey to that game and we would have lost. I would have felt guilt somehow on myself. So that's just my whole take on that.
Same.
But this is great, riveting discussion about our jerseys and our themes. But I kind of brought it on onto this conversation. But back to the game. Um, Georgia's pass rush is just, and we have some great players on the defensive line. We have some edge rushers who we know can get to the quarterback because we've heard about it and we've seen it, but it has not been there. It's been horrendous. I keep telling people there's been a bad pass rush, and I keep getting the response, it hasn't been bad. there hasn't been one. There has not been a pass rush present to be bad. Like, I even sent a text out that was like, where do we leave our pass rush? I was like, did we leave it after that second national championship in LA? So I don't know. Sometimes it just drives me crazy. Um, I'm gonna ask you specifically what you think it is. Was talking to a guy earlier, the legendary Zach Cannon. He'll love this video when he sees it. But he was talking about how we had guys like Jalen Walker and Michael Williams and guys on the defense last year. We went into Texas and just destroyed Texas with our pass rush. Um, and I mean, those guys just balled out. Those were dudes. I don't think that we have a Jalen Walker on this defense. I don't know that we necessarily have a Michael Williams on this defense, but I don't know that I would say that we don't have the talent to do it. I think a lot of it is just we're not scheming up blitzes. I'm not even saying we're not scheming them up. I just don't think we're being as creative or as um, screw it, let's go get the quarterback mentality in those play callings and those schemes on defense. Do we think it's an athlete issue as far as getting to the quarterback, or is it a scheme issue? Because clearly something's up. It was pretty atrocious last game, and even though there were definitely some questionable moments from our defensive backs, like the fact that Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard didn't look like prime Jerry Rice and Randy Moss due to our pass rush was a miracle in itself. So what do you think? Was it scheme? Was it athletes? What's going on with our pass rush?
So I'll go back to we talked about it last week. The difference between the 21 and 22 national championship teams were our defensive lines. Like we had great defenses behind them, but we've had great defenses behind our defensive line every single year under Kirby Smart. We've had insane linebackers cores. We've had fairly pretty good, secondaries as well. But having Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, those three guys who are just game wreckers, all first round draft picks, all balling out in the men's league in the NFL. I mean, those dudes are difference makers. They're game wreckers, and we haven't had that. In 2023, I think was our best year since the two national championship teams. Um, we didn't have those guys. You got like a Zion Logue and a Nazir Stackhouse, and no flack on them, but like they're not Jalen Walker, they're not Jordan Davis, they're not Devontae Wyatt, and we still haven't had those guys. And do I think some of these guys can be that? Like I think Elijah Griffin will be that. I'm still high on Elijah Griffin, and we haven't seen him near as much as I thought we would. But I mean, where's Christian Miller? Like he was preseason All SEC, first team. And he has been relatively nothing this season. But my big thing is, like you said, the edge. Where's the Jalen Walker and the Michael Williams on this team? I was super high on Gabe Harris. I thought he was overshadowed because we had those two elite pass rushers, in Jalen Walker and Michael Williams. And I thought Gabe Harris was going to come in. He made the move to number 0. He was about to look like Billy Badass out there and get to the quarterback every time and just like wreak havoc. And he's been largely irrelevant as well. Where's Elo Medozi? The transfer
Thank
from
you.
Army.
Thank you. I had just written that down on this paper. I was going to ask you, where has he been? I don't have the answer to that question, and
I
it's been
know.
driving me insane. I probably lost a bit of sleep over it.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, I think me and you have sat on this very show and said like we were high on him. Like he's coming in here and he is about to be game wreckers. Like he is a future Sunday player and he has done nothing. I don't even think I've seen him on the field yet. Like I don't know if it's injury or whatever. So in that sense, back to your athletic, is it athletes versus scheme thing? Like maybe it is. Maybe it is the athletes because we thought Elo Nadozi was going to be that dude, and he hasn't been out there. So is he just not the athlete we thought he was? But on the flip side, I think it's more so on the scheme side. And I'm not blaming Schumann at all or our defensive plan, Kirby, everybody. I just think we were so wired to think that we cannot let Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Horton beat us over the top. And we were so scared of it. And we took a dude out of the box and we just don't have that added person getting to the quarterback. But like you said about the Texas game, we go in there and we'd been beaten by Alabama, but we were coming back, and Texas, we were like, screw it, we're going to put our foot on their neck and we're going to kill them. And we did. And Jalen Walker had 3 sacks in the first half. Michael Williams was forcing fumbles left and right. Like we were playing all over the place. We were playing like out of our minds. But you also look at that game, What else was happening? Dalen Everett was blitzing from the corner. We haven't seen that at all. Where's the
Mm.
safety blitz? Where's KJ Bolden in the backfield like he was last year? Like we have to create some scheming things where we just give the quarterback some mixed up looks and get in their face and get them to the ground. And it's been largely non-existent this year. And I don't know if it's just because we're playing so traditional that we have to have because we need all the help we can in the secondary because we're struggling on one side of that, or if it's just we don't have the athletes. I don't know what it is. I like it. I've lost sleep over this. Like it's bugging me and it's really pissing me off. And it almost cost us the Tennessee game and it cost us this game. And I just think we have to get to the quarterback because it's going to keep costing us against a team like Ole Miss, who's got an insanely good quarterback, some weapons on the outside, a good rushing attack. Like if we don't clog up the middle, we are screwed. Texas potentially. I mean, they're going to be scary. They're going to come in here hot. They're going to come in here vengeance. All that stuff. We haven't really seen much from Texas this year, but God, I mean, Arch is threatening, and if we don't get to him, we don't get him on the ground. It's going to be a long night. Same thing. I mean, even with Florida, even with Auburn in 2 weeks, like going to Auburn and not getting Jackson Arnold on the ground. That's the only part of their game that works on offense for Auburn is Jackson Arnold running the ball. Their running backs are decent, but they got completely shut down by Texas A&M. They have no passing attack. Jackson Arnold can't throw the ball. So that's a perfect opportunity. Get to the quarterback and shut him down, and we will blow Auburn out of the water. Florida, DJ Lagway is as much as Florida has sucked this year. If we don't get him to the ground, he is a dangerous rushing attack. Like we have to get to the quarterback, or else this season is going to hell in a handbasket.
A lot of stuff, and I agree with pretty much everything you said.
Yeah,
But back on Elam Adozi, one thing I did hear I mean, he's coming from Army and love the troops.
yeah,
Army doesn't play the level of football or the teams uh, that we do. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe he just hasn't seen SEC football and he's not ready for that level. I don't know. I don't know. I would go and get him out of the portal and why he'd be so highly coveted if he wasn't a guy who could make an instant impact. A lot of what I had heard post spring was that he was the biggest impact player post spring.
hmm
So it really, I can't make sense of that at all. But that's part of that. As bad as the pass rush has been, our run defense has been really good. It was good for about 3.5 quarters and then some versus Tennessee. It was good really the whole game against Alabama.
hmm
Um, the run defense has been great. So that kind of makes me feel like we've got the guys to do it. If we can stop the run, I don't know how you can be so good at stopping the run, but so bad at rushing the passer. I know those are different in their own ways, but it's like I do put a lot of that on coaching. Glenn Schumann is an incredible linebacker coach, and when he was paired with Muschamp um, for 22 and 23, the defensive coordinating and play calling was good. And I
yeah.
think a lot of that credit goes to Muschamp, obviously, because I think Muschamp is just a
And
fantastic
Lanning,
coach. And Lanning, when it was otherworldly the way that Dane Lanning would dial up pressures.
yeah,
Like this dude, yes, he had N'Kobe Dean. Yes, he had Jordan Davis, who takes up two or three people at a time to block him. Yes, he had Jalen Carter on that same defense with Devontae Wyatt and Adam Anderson for a little bit,
yeah,
and and Robert Beal
yeah,
and Nolan Smith. The list goes on and on. He had the athletes, he totally did, but he schemed up blitzes. It was again otherworldly. Just we're pressuring guys all the time, first and second down. One of the things that I think is kind of Georgia's issue, at least in that game, is they don't want to blitz on first and second down. We've got to find a guy who can blitz out of a true inside backer standpoint. We got to find a guy who can get low and get through these gaps in the offensive line. Right now, I don't know that we have that. I don't know that I've really seen CJ Allen. CJ Allen's a great player. Raylan Wilson's really taken a step up this year, but I don't know that I've really seen either of them really make an impact when they're blitzing. So that's got to be fixed. There were a couple times that we did get around on the edges last week, but it just took too long. Uh, I think it comes down to that starting three on the defensive line. Again, very good at stopping the run, elite at stopping the run. We outgained them on the ground by a decent margin, I think. But we've got to figure it out. If we can't get a pass rush, I could go out there for Kentucky on Saturday and dot up our defense. That's just the way it works, and that's probably a little bit of a stretch, but like when you have 5 seconds to throw the ball, you're probably gonna find somebody or you're gonna find a lane at some
Mhm.
point. It's just the way it works. Um, I want to ask you quickly about this, and then we'll move on to Kentucky for just a minute. The offensive line has been a huge concern of mine following that Tennessee game. They had their moments in this game, but I think they overall performed pretty well. I think the stats were pretty solid. I think they didn't really allow that many pressures.
Mhm.
Did they do enough in this game to win the game? Did they carry much blame in your eyes for what happened?
They really don't. We're gonna look at that 4th and 1. I mean, we've talked about it enough, and how that was a busted block, and they got to the backfield and ruined that play. But I mean, look at the rushing attack for the rest of the game. Like that's what I keep going back to. That's what we asked of them to do. Like me and you sat here and we said we got to establish the run, and we did, and that started up front. I thought Micah Morris played an insane game. He looked really good. Drew Bobo, same way. Um, that right side is very concerning though. Whether it's Gaston, Ernest Green, Glover, like whoever's over there, it's either young or it's hurt. And so it's going to be a concern until we either get completely healthy and we find the dude, like the dude. And I just but overall in the Bama scope, I think they played a pretty decent game. I don't think they're all in part to blame. I think this blame falls on everybody's shoulders, not one coach, not one player. And I definitely don't think the offensive line should take the brunt of it. There's some blame to go there, and there's always room for improvement. Um, I think you posted it. Sam Pittman's fired. Just saying, like, I mean,
I mean, come
we
on,
don't
we
ask of
we can go get
much.
him. We don't. That's what I said. I said I
Yeah,
don't ask much, guys.
yeah,
And I actually had that written down, but you mentioned that, so I have to. Uh, I am obligated to bring this up now. Stacey Searles has not recruited to Georgia standards at the offensive line position. I don't think it's. I don't want to call the recruiting. It is concerning in some ways, but in other ways, like Juan Gaston's a 5-star. He's gone out and gotten 4-star players pretty consistently. He hasn't really gotten nowhere near the recruiter Sam Pittman is. But he has gone out and recruited a sizable offensive line. That's true. But when you look on the on-field product since Pittman left, it has gone down. And it wasn't like a huge drop off under Matt Luke, but given Matt Luke had Sam Pittman's offensive line for 2 years, basically,
hmm
once we really start getting into these Searles recruiting classes, not calling these players bad or not saying he doesn't go get some good players, the depth is a concern.
yeah,
We've lost a lot of linemen under Pittman, and we would just reload and we would have the dudes. Like,
hmm
and again, I don't think they're really even close to the biggest issue from this past game. Uh, I'm not a Searles fan. I'm
yeah,
just not. I'm more concerned about what this offensive line will continue to look like under Searles than I am really with the offense under Bobo. That's a hot take because I think Bobo, I didn't mention it. I thought he called a good enough game to win. Obviously, 4th and 1, 3rd and 9, little questionable, definitely very questionable. Um, but it's like we get a block, 28 points. Catch the ball, 35 points. And again, excuses, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But it's like execution is a big part of that. But Stacey Searles' offensive line has pretty much downgraded from year to year. Not pretty much. It has gotten worse every single year. And the recruiting, even though it's not horrific, it's definitely concerning as far as Georgia standards overall. Um, Sam Pittman, I love Sam Pittman. I love him from who he is as a person, and I just love the dude as a coach. The offensive line was so good under him. I've never seen as consistent of a unit,
yeah,
and as deep of a unit. We don't have depth right now. We can't under Pittman. Like you could lose a guy, and it would probably hurt, but you would have someone under that player that could just show up. You don't have that this year. What do we do if we lose Monroe Freeling? What do we do if we lose Micah Morse? It will be hell for our team, and it's just not a good road to go down. But anyway, not trying to just bash Stacey Searles because again, his unit really didn't play that bad this game. Although
yeah,
there were concerns. That's really my 2 cents on Searles and the line
yeah.
in general. And the one other thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if you have anything else on this topic, but I did want to say Gunner definitely helps that run game. He has a true rush, and we've mentioned this before. It's not like a novel idea, but it's just like we're really seeing the impact of that now. Lanes open up for guys like Bowens when we have the running threats of Gunner.
Yeah.
I really don't have much else to add to that. That's just what it is. That is what it is with Gunner. The fact that he can run the ball so effectively, guys are going to be open, lanes are going to open, and we saw it last year early in like that Texas game. I think more and more teams, the more we can run the ball with him, if we'll give him more quarterback designed runs, I feel like that could give other teams more respect for what he can do on the ground,
Hmm.
commit some more players to the quarterback run so that it opens up our running game. But I definitely was encouraged by what I saw with the running game in general and with the run blocking overall.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think like you said, the Gunner rushing attack is strong. And back to the offensive line, like they opened up the lanes, for the most part in this game. Going back to the 4th and 1, I know we're going to keep harping on it, but it was a read. I mean, it technically was a read option play, and Gunner could have pulled that ball, and the dude bit hard on Cash, like coming in from the
Mhm.
left side, like bit hard, and Gunner could have slipped around that. That's neither here nor there, and I'm not blaming Gunner on not making that read whatsoever. The play was designed for it to be Cash Jones. But I just back to the Sam Pittman thing. The greatest story that I keep going back to on Pittman, and I thought it was going to work out for him at Arkansas. There's like there's personalities in college football that just match with teams, and I thought Pittman in Arkansas was like
Yeah,
match made in heaven. Um,
absolutely.
but I keep going back to that. I got to be good friends with Tate Ratledge. And when Tate was committed to Georgia, that offseason is when Sam Pittman went to Arkansas. And Coach Pittman went to Tate and said, and Tate was like, I want to follow you to Arkansas. I'm coming with you. And Tate was a highly touted recruit, five
Hmm.
star, borderline 5, 4 star, and out of Darlington in Rome. And Coach Pittman looked at him and he goes, "Son, I don't want you to follow me to Arkansas. You need to stick with Georgia. You need to stay with this program because that's the right place for you. That's the right answer for you to get to the next level. And I know that's what your end goal is." How can you not love the dude?
How
Because
exactly?
yeah, like that is the greatest respect story of all time. And that's just how he recruited kids though. That's a testament to Sam Pittman, who he is as a person, but how he recruits. Like he trusts these dudes trust him, and he trusts his offensive linemen to go out there and execute because he's invested his time into them. So I mean, I'm all for Sam Pittman. That's just a little tangent I had to throw out
Oh
there.
yeah,
But
oh yeah.
no, but I mean, I think this offensive line can improve, and it's we saw some promise. I will say that against Alabama. I'll end it.
Definitely some improvements, at least from 2 weeks before. And I think a lot of my point with Pittman, again, I have my criticisms of Searles, but I think Pittman's just that good. He's like a guy you can't. I feel like you can't pass on when you got him right here. We're gonna shift just a little bit. There's a lot of talk about Alabama.
Yeah,
Glad we got some anger out,
yeah.
got some stuff off our chest. I'm not asking for anything specific. No score prediction. No hot take. Just what are your early thoughts on this Kentucky game? What do you have to say overall about this?
I think what Kirby said in the Monday presser yesterday was awesome. Somebody asked, what are the highs, or how do you handle the being at the highs of highs like Tennessee, and then the lows of lows to against Alabama? And Kirby just said Kentucky. That's we got to go
That's
get.
what sets Georgia apart.
Yep,
Is
and
that
I
guy
think
at the helm?
yeah, and like we said, I said it last week. I've said it today. We take on the personality of our head coach, and that's what the best college football teams in the country do. They take on the personality of who their head coach is in their playing style, in their practice style, in their locker room style. That's who you have to be is your head coach, because that's who he's coached you to be. And I think Kirby's done an exceptional job of that, obviously. So it's next man up. It's the next tree, keep chopping. And when that tree falls, it's on to the next. I think when you have a SEC slate, it doesn't matter if it's 2014 Vanderbilt and 2015 Alabama, 2020 Alabama, 2019 LSU, and you have those games back to back where it's just the worst of the worst and the best of the best. It's the SEC, dude. Like Kentucky's going to come in here. We still have a target on our back. My main thing is we cannot let Alabama beat us twice. We cannot let the emotions get in the way. We've got to go out there. Let's open it up. If we win the toss, I want the ball on offense. Like let's get on offense and let's just air one out first play of the game, and let's just put him to bed early. Let's
Get in the
win
rhythm.
52-14.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's put up a lot of points and hold them to just a couple points. I know it's
Yeah,
very obvious, but no, I think at some point we've got to break this streak of we don't start quick. Yes, we had a 2 minute touchdown drive, 2.5 minute touchdown drive versus Tennessee to start the game. After that, you couldn't get anything going for about a quarter.
yeah,
Like, and this wasn't an issue until Bobo got here. Again, not critiquing Bobo as far as that game. I thought he called a good enough game for Georgia to win, and execution just wasn't there, though I had criticisms of some of his crucial play calls. This is an issue that we've seen. We didn't see this under Monken. We didn't have the talent in. I'm not even going to say that actually. We had Stetson and, or sorry, we didn't have Stetson. We had Ladd and Brock in that first year with Bobo, and we still found a way to start slow.
yeah,
It's I feel like that's really tough to do. And
yeah,
obviously you've got a younger quarterback, but that was arguably Carson's better year. Carson played a great 2023 season. People don't
yeah.
really give him enough credit for that, but he played a great football that year. And even that season, it's like we always started slow. We never scored a touchdown to begin the game. For a good like 5 games there, uh, the other team scored first,
Hmm.
and every game straight. It's really concerning, especially when you go. And I know like we mentioned the line, but they weren't really the issue this week. When you go get guys like Zach Branch and Colby Young and Noah Thomas, who I think we'll eventually see, I'm still upset that he hasn't really had a chance to make a play. It's not his fault at all. But we go out and get these guys in the portal. You spend probably a good chunk of NIL money on your running back room. Like it's got to click at some point. You got to get out there and start quick. Your quarterback is a smart player and is an accurate passer. You got guys who can win one-on-ones, win in space,
Hmm.
get them the ball. I don't know why we struggle to do this at the beginning of games where we went three and out to start the game,
Yeah,
which, I mean, being Georgia, you can recover from starting three and out because you just have a different mentality and different culture than other places. But like we have too good of an offense to go three and out. And I'm not saying Alabama doesn't have a talented defense, but it's like I just don't. We got to figure this out at some point because that's of all the concerns we have right now. If we continue to start slow like this, it keeps teams in the game for way longer than they should be, whether they're our talent level or not.
yeah,
But it's definitely concerning. Anyway, a lot of talk about Alabama. Good little tidbit of Kentucky. But thank you, Hammy, for joining. As always, go Dogs, and hopefully we'll break down a pretty big win over Kentucky next week, and then head into what could be a trap game at Auburn. I will have to see. We'll have to
yeah.
see.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun, even after a loss.
Even
Gotta
after a
gotta have a
loss,
little vent session. But yeah, appreciate you, man. Go Dogs.
go Dogs. Thanks to Hammy as always for joining the podcast and discussing some Georgia football. We're definitely blessed to be able to break it down the way we do every week and to just really be able to focus on Georgia football and talk to people about what's going on with the games. So again, thanks to him. I'm gonna give you all my score prediction for this weekend: Georgia versus Kentucky. I don't think again it shouldn't be a very tough game. I do think that our defense will play similarly, but they're facing a lesser talent. I do think we'll build off of an elite running game. I do think Chancey Bones will probably have a few big runs. Hopefully, Nate Frazier gains some confidence back. Maybe get Dwight Phillips in there a little bit more. He hasn't taken very many snaps the past 2 games, but I feel like he could be an impact player. Regardless, I've got Georgia 38 to 14. I do think the pass game gets into some better rhythm. I do think Gunner can carve up with a few games of experience, can carve up a defense, and I think we'll see it. I think that Georgia will win pretty handily. I'd be happy with a win like this. Anything much closer, anything closer than 3 scores would be a little uncomfortable for sure. But I do think it should be a 3-score game. I think the spread, even though it's definitely out there, I think it could happen. I think it will happen. I think Georgia will cover for the first time this year. I don't know why I feel that because we're yet to cover. It's just weird. We don't cover for whatever reason. But I do think this will happen. I got Georgia 38 to 14. Do you want to move around really quickly and just mention some games around the country? Number 3, Miami is playing against number 18, Florida State. Florida State is the home team, I believe. It is being played in Tallahassee. They dropped the game last week to Virginia with the craziest field rush I've ever seen. Pretty stupid what happened. But that's one of the two big-ish games. And then you got, I'll say it's a big game. Then you got Georgia, or it's not Georgia, sorry. Then you got Alabama, number 10 Alabama taking on number 16 Vandy. Vandy's undefeated this year. Alabama obviously just came into our house and beat us and snapped a 33-game home winning streak. That's where College game day will be. I'll go ahead and give you my picks on those two games. I've got Miami over Florida State. I think they've got too much talent in the trenches, and I think the talent on the outsides is pretty comparable. I'll give it to Miami. I do think Alabama will run the table, so to say, after beating us, and I hope we'll do the same after our loss to them. I do think they'll run the table. I think they're going to beat Vanderbilt this weekend, and I don't know that it will be relatively close. I think Diego Pavia is a good player. I respect Coach Lee up in Nashville and what he has done, but it's coming to an end. This Cinderella story of, we're 4-0, we're 5-0, whatever, Vanderbilt, whatever they are. I do think Bama will win this game pretty handily. I'll go into some of my other picks. We'll just skim through them. 14, Iowa State is going to beat Cincinnati. Baylor over Kansas State. Number 9, Texas over Florida. This is a game I thought could be close for a while. And then I saw that Florida really sucks at football this year. Even though we didn't expect them to, they just have not been good. So I do think that number 9, Texas will beat Florida at Florida. Number 24, Virginia over Louisville. Washington over Maryland. UNLV over Wyoming. And UCF over Kansas. And Duke over Cal. I went 6-4 last week in Pick'em. 27-23 overall through 5 weeks. So could be a lot better, could be a lot worse. Back over 500 though last week with my prediction, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna go ahead and bring y'all actually to. I'm gonna change this up a little bit. I'm gonna do the word of encouragement, and faith note, biblical, scriptural message. We're gonna do this a little earlier than we typically do in our episodes. A little different of an episode from past weeks. Then I'll go into film from Georgia, Alabama, and then I'll look at some injuries from both of those teams, and then we will head out from there. But I wanted to leave y'all a quote that I just learned. This is not me going out and finding this. This is something that was told to me, and I just thought it'd be a great topic for a video. The quote is St. Francis of Assisi. It's preach the gospel at all times, use words if necessary. Basically, what this is meaning is you, and I've seen this phrase a lot recently just on social media, you may be the only Bible that someone ever reads, so let your example you set for somebody, your actions, be great. Obviously, words matter. Using words to spread the gospel or to just accomplish anything. Words matter, but actions speak a lot louder. It really applies to the gospel and to just preaching the truth, preaching the word to people. So my encouragement to you would be to, in everything you do, just exemplify what a Christian should be, or do your absolute best to do so. And think of that terminology. If you're the only Bible that someone ever reads, what would you want them to read? I think it's a great question, and it's, again, kind of got there quickly, got to the end point quickly, but that's the word I want to leave y'all with. I think it's pretty encouraging. But I'll go ahead and send y'all to Georgia, Alabama film, some of the things that went wrong, and then we will go into Georgia's injuries, and then we will head out. All right, we're going to go ahead and look at 5 plays from Georgia versus Alabama, some that I think probably shifted the momentum a little bit, some that were good plays, bad plays. We're going to look at everything, okay? And it's not going to be super in-depth. I just want to kind of throw some stuff out there at you. So this is where Georgia, sorry, that audio is playing. This is where Georgia really kind of gets some momentum for sure. It's the beginning of the second half, and Alabama gets the ball to start, and Georgia allows them to drive a little bit, but they put them in a 40-yard plus field goal. Worst miss I've seen since Ohio State. Quite simply, that's what we got. We got pretty lucky, missed that. Definitely gave us a shot of momentum. 2 plays later, after we ran the ball for probably 6 yards on first down, probably ran it. This is the best play call Bobo's had in a while, and the best one he had this game for sure. Fake double reverse. Look at this. So, Gunner takes a snap, hands it off to Dylan Bell. Dylan Bell is acting like he's going to toss it to Zach Branch. Zach Branch acts like he's going to have it. That fakes some guys out for sure. Let's look at Zero. Does Zero get faked out by this? Yeah, it causes some guys to stutter for sure. 96 looks back for a second as well. 96 kind of gives up running where he was. Buys Dylan Bell half a second and quite a few yards because Dylan Bell is a very athletic football player. Let's give him credit. So that's a great play call. Josh McCray is just a dude. He's going to run through 2 guys, 2 tackles, and get into the end zone. He should be taking goal line carries from here on out, no questions asked. I believe that wholeheartedly. I cut out the drop, I believe, by Taylor just because we know what that was. He was wide open, great throw, great route. He just didn't come up with the ball. It was a pretty bad drop. We'll move on. Here's the 4th and 1. Here's the play. So if we watch this back, there's some debate going on whether. So we've got, looks like Dontrell Glover right here, and then we've got Juan Gaston right there. So Juan Gaston ideally is supposed to take him, and I believe Glover would either down block or meet this backer, right? So let's watch that in a little slower of speed, right? Okay. So he takes that backer. That backer blitzes. So he takes that backer. So Juan's got to know, hey, this is my guy now. Overton's my guy. And Gaston quite honestly just missed. He kind of chips him, which I don't know. He misses in my opinion. That should have been him. I think he missed it, but it's hard to really come up and say for sure when you're not in these meeting rooms. Regardless, Cash Jones should not be in the game on 4th and 1. He should not be the guy that we should ask to maybe break a tackle or get a quick yard. Because even though this is without any disrespect to Cash Jones, love the guy, it should be Chancey Bones. It should be Josh McCray. The guys that can go get a yard pretty guaranteed. Not saying that I don't think Cash was close or that he could have gotten it had that block been there. Had that block been there, I could have run into the end zone. And that says something. So I think it's just a bunch of things. I don't think he needs to be in the game. I don't think we need to go for it anyway. I think we need to take the points. But regardless of that, we missed a block or else it would have been a touchdown. So we got to look at that at the end of the day. Let's take this off at half speed. It's unfortunate. He almost catches his footing. He doesn't, so almost doesn't really matter. But anyway, and then here's the other play. Here's the play that really drove me crazy. And I don't know why it's not pausing. Give me a second, y'all. Here we go. I don't know why it's not pausing. But London misses a block. I think Sokovi kind of gets dealt with over there. Sorry, this is not cooperating, y'all. Yeah, Sokovi doesn't exactly... And he's getting taken on by the linebacker, so that's one thing. But it's arguable that if London does hit that block, that... I don't know. Maybe we're talking about a little different of a play here. But also, why is it, again, Cash Jones getting the ball 2-on-4, given that two of them are pretty far behind? Why is he getting the ball at that moment? I don't know. Why is it not a more complex play other than a screen? I don't know. Why is Chancey Bones not getting more attempts? Because he's literally killed it this game? I don't know. I can't answer those questions. I'm just here to look over what we have. That's what we have. And that's all I really have to say about the film aspect of this. The last part I want to look at is the injury report. There is no injury report as of Tuesdays on game weeks. The Georgia Bulldogs and other SEC teams have to report their injury list to let me just go and switch off of this. They have to report the injury list to the SEC by Wednesday at 8 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the injury list for you guys as we speak. There's nothing really major that happened. If anything, it's probably some smaller little injuries. But as we know, Ernest Green was out for this game. I don't know when he'll be back. I know Juan Gaston's left off the availability report and played pretty much the whole game. He wasn't officially starting, though, I don't believe. But I believe it was Bo Hughley and Dontrell Glover started the game. And everyone else is kind of how it has been with Ethan Barber out and Tolliver out and all those things. So anyway, that's all I got for y'all in today's episode. Definitely a very unfortunate loss. I hope y'all enjoyed that interview with Hammy. Definitely one of our longer ones, but got some good content in there. Thank you all for watching. God bless, Go Dogs. Hopefully we'll be back next week to break down Kentucky. Thank you.